Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Today, as I mentioned in the unboxing video that I posted recently, I'm going to sew my vinyl strike-offs from Backstitch Prints. You can see the unboxing video linked in the description of this video if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out. I'll be using a few of the things that I showed in that video. And I will be making today a Diddlebug handmade. They're super popular mini backpack. I did a sew along for it, so if you want to follow the sew along, it's here on my channel. It's the backpack as written in the pattern, no mods or anything like that, split into 5 days, so it's easy to follow. Today I'm going to be making a modified one. I'm going to skip the front cargo pocket. And I think I might add one like the inside pocket on the front. I haven't decided 1000%. And the pattern also features a drop-in lining. If you want to see how to do that, do follow the sew along video that I posted probably about a year and a half ago. I'm going to attempt to not do a drop-in lining today. I'm going to try to see if I can birth it, and we'll see how that goes. So, because it's like, you know my style. I'm winging it as I go. As always, I'm not a professional bag maker. I don't sew to sell. These are bags that stay with me, go to friends, get offered for donations. My videos are not tutorials of the pattern. They're just sew with me videos if you want to hang out with me today while I make or attempt to make a drop-in lining mini backpack, and to show off some fabric and chat and just hear me rambling. So none of my videos are meant to replace the video that the actual designer sells. That being said, let's get started. So everything is cut. I have cut and interfaced everything with my heat press. You can see the video in my MCR Basics how I use my heat press. I had no issues with this stunning vinyl. These are interfaced with sewing foam, so these were not used with the heat press. However, I did add Decovil Heavy to the bottom piece, and that one I used the heat press for. I'm using the I Spy collection with the confetti coordinate. So there's going to be a lot of vinyl, a lot of foam, and I'm using waterproof canvas, so there's no woven interfacing on it for the lining. This is from Amazon, and as always, everything that I'm using is going to be linked in the description of the video. My zippers and the zipper pulls are from Wizardry Stitchery. As always, I am their #1 supporter because of customer service. The only thing that's not from there is this zipper pull that I found in my stash that has just like a little D-ring attached to it, like a 1/4 inch D-ring, because I want to add, this is going to be for the front pocket that I was mentioning, I want to add one of the charms to it. So I figured there's no need to waste one of my zipper pulls, fancy zipper pulls, since I'm going to add a charm to it. At the end of the day, I could have both of them. But see, I want to add this zipper charm that will be part of the pre-order because it's super cute and it has the same print, so awesome. This is my plan for this, but I'll add it at the end. But other than that, it's the usual suspects. Backstitch, Amazon, and Wizardry Stitchery. Everything linked below. So let's get started. We're going to start by creating the back of the backpack first, which means this confetti one, because I'm using the confetti for the back and the I Spy for the front. And for the back, we're gonna have to make a couple of markings for where to add the straps. Let me keep the strap connectors here. And that's a strap, that's a back accent cover that stays. See, I do recommend you guys write down what they are, what the pieces are on the back, because it's definitely a lot easier if you, especially if you cut one day and sew the next, you're gonna forget what they are when you have many rectangles. So look at all these rectangle pockets. It's good to have them marked. Oh, and I think I know I'm going to make one more modification solely because I was missing one rectangle piece. So I needed 4. The pattern calls for 4, and I only had 3. So because I don't want to use a different color, I'm going to use 2 D-rings instead of 2 rectangle rings, and add clasps like swivel clips. So basically I'm using 4 extra pieces instead of using 1 different colored D-ring, rectangle ring, because I am crazy like that. Ignore me. The pattern doesn't need all those extra pieces. But hey, I didn't want to place an order, wait for it. I wanted to make the video today because I have had, listen to this, I have had promises from my kids this morning that they will not be loud because they're home today. School starts back tomorrow. And they promised me they will not be loud today and they will let me tape the video quietly. We'll see how that goes. Stay tuned. Let me grab a ruler. So we can mark the back of the pattern. We are 1.5 inches down and 2 1/4. I'm using my friction pen. This way I know I can erase these lines. So this is 1.5 inch down and 2 1/4. And then 1 inch off each center. So let me mark the center. You could mark the center using your pattern piece as well. So I put a little marking here and then a little marking here, and I'm going to draw the center, and then I'll mark 1 inch on each side. There you go, 1 inch on each side. Those will be the markings for, let me snip this in case I lose my markings. Okay, so this is marked. Now let's go ahead and create the strap connector and the straps themselves and attach them. I'm not going by the pattern in the order instructed in the pattern. I figure since I'm working on the back piece, I might as well do everything. So to create your bottom connector, you're going to simply place your fabric like so, your fabric or your vinyl like so, and then fold it in half. This will yield you a 1 inch connector. And this is where I will put the D-ring. I'm going to put the D-ring on the bottom. You'll see in just a second how. You can also mark the center with a line. I'm going to try to make this not too long of a video, since I've already done sew along for this pattern, so you can always refer to that. And of course, due to the nature of this print, I am back to using my beautiful unicorn mane sewing string from Wizardry. So I'm stitching on the side with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I have used my mini backpack at the park at Disney World, quite a few times, and it's my most practical backpack. I have quite a few backpacks from various designers. I find that this one for my needs and my style is the most practical one, and the water bottle actually fit a water bottle in them. I've made other backpacks that don't fit. They're more like decorative ones, and I wasn't a fan of that at the park. I need to be able to put my water bottle so it's within reach, you know. Okay, and this I'll just rivet. Let's find the other one, and we're going to do the same thing with the other one. I still have a couple of those tester rivets from Wizardry, the mouse head rivets, that I'm still trying to convince Melissa to bring to the shop. It may or may not be for selfish reasons, because I adore them, but they're so cute. So I think I'm gonna add those to this project. I mean, the print definitely calls for fancy rivets. And there you go. Okay, same thing, we're going to do 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you see that your thread is coming out like mine did right now, it's because I didn't leave a big enough tail. So make sure, if you're using one of this style industrial, come on, that you leave a big enough tail. And I remember, speaking of Diddlebug, before I got this, Erin Morris from Diddlebug let me play with her Juki 1181 at her house, and this was one of the first things she taught me before I even got my machine. She taught me that I need to make sure I leave a big enough tail, like not like this, not 2 inches like this. She said make sure you pull enough tail and you put it through, and this is something I don't do, although she did teach me well, through the foot to the back. She is a pro bag maker, so I should listen to her. But yeah. Alrighty, where is my viewing? So these are from Wizardry. I love how she ships them like this, so there's no scratches or anything on them. So I'm sliding my D-ring like so. And then give me a second to grab my rivet, punch holder, and the press. So the strap is 1 inch wide, so I'm going to mark 1/2 inch. I'm using my seam guide, or you can measure, just measure 1/2 inch. My seam guide from Sew Sweetness, because I don't have their rivet one, but I will get it. So I'm using the 1/2 inch mark from this just to center it, just to center my rivet. And I do have a video on my channel about rivets and how to add them and what tools you can use if you don't have a table press and so on. So I'll be sure to link that as well. Okay. And my little body here. How cute is this rivet? Come on, Melissa, if you hear me. This is the most beautiful rivet ever. I've seen some inspired by Melissa's stuff and I didn't like them because they weren't done correctly. The ears, they were not anatomically like I like them. So I'm hoping she will do this with her mold that she paid for, so she might as well. But I digress. I'm using a little piece of cloth just to protect the rivet. Look how pretty. Look how pretty it is. You can't tell me we don't deserve this, more of this. Beautiful. Okay, so let me do the same thing for the other strap before I get lost in all the rambling. Okay, so this is the center. This puncher is one of the best things that I've ever bought on Amazon. Again, it's something that Erin recommended when I went to her house to test her industrial machine. She's the one that showed me that puncher. And it's like $10 or something like that. It's super inexpensive and it's so good. Look, it goes through 4 layers of vinyl without any issues. And it went through 8 too. Oh, it's so good. So this is my bottom strap connector that I'm working on right now. Perfect. Okay, so that one will go an inch from the bottom. So let's measure an inch from the bottom. I'm telling you, I'm using this seam guide for way more than an actual seam guide. It's so small and it doesn't take room. No, not here. So this is an inch from the bottom. And an inch from the bottom. So we're going to place that with a little bit of an angle, like this. The pattern follows a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so when you add your rivet, make sure you don't add it too low, because you don't want it to hit the needle when you're stitching. This is squishy and squiggly. Let's see. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Just make sure you go a couple of times over. And then we'll be creating the strap. This pattern has 2 kinds of straps in one. It has a webbing strap, which I'm very excited about because I get to use my beautiful webbing for it, and it also has a vinyl strap. So for the webbing strap, this would go in, one part would go in the D-ring in my case, and the swivel clip. If you use the rectangle like the pattern calls for, it would go right here in the rectangle. So let me put my swivel clip on one end. I'm simply running it through and just folding it about an inch and stitching it down. This webbing is absolutely gorgeous, and come on, it's just perfect for this backpack. We'll do the same thing on the other one. Because these are two webbings, right, one for each side. So this will now be hooked here. There you go, so pretty. And let's go do the same thing on the other side. I did seal my ends with a lighter. So we're going to do the same thing for the other side. The print on the webbing is not directional. It's tossed, so you can use either end of this webbing. It's definitely unnecessary use of extra hardware, but hey, YOLO. And it's pretty, so who cares? It's just pretty. Okay, let's do the hanging strap first. This is the little handle in the back. And this one will be 1/2 inch. So there you go. Again, all these steps I've done already in the sew along for the Minni and explain them step by step, because these are definitely part of the pattern. This is not modified in any ways. Well, I mean, those straps were a little bit, but I told you why. It's because I was missing one rectangle. One. Okay. So now I'm just sewing this. This will be a 1/2 inch handle. That was a flying rectangle. So if I start searching for it later, I will be able to hear you through the screen when you'll tell me if it flew. Okay, so we're going to add this right here on the inside of that marking. Let me double check. It's been a while since I've made one. I want to make sure it's on the lower side. Okay, yes. So it's on the lower marking on the inside. So this is the 2 and this is the 1. I don't know how well you can see. I don't know what's up with my light today. So we're gonna add this right in here. And make sure that your strap is not twisted when you do that. I hope you like sewing backpacks, because I'll be back on the channel with another backpack soon with the Animal Crossing strikes. Okay, see, this one I didn't put it right. I put it on the outside. So let me just move it a tad. So they need to go inside that marking, because on the outside it's gonna be the shoulder strap. No big deal. And I guess sewing and chatting has its disadvantages at one point. Easy fix. Okay, so let's make the straps now. And I might speed through this in the video, because you've seen me make straps many times. So basically you do a center line, fold once, fold twice, and then fold 3 times and stitch. Easy. So I'm gonna be speeding through this part, so you don't have to watch me for like 15 minutes and hear me rambling, because usually when I do stuff like this I ramble. So I'll spare you that part. To create the final strap, you will need to first attach the vinyl strap, or the fabric strap part, not the webbing part, to the top on each side of the handle. And if you have a wrong side or a right side of the fabric, make sure you check it before you stitch it. I used the unicorn main thread only on one side, so for me that will be the right side. And this one goes here. So I'm just stitching them on each side of that handle, just like the pattern calls for, nothing new. The slider now will go on the webbing. So take your slider, slide it up, slide it down. Again, slider with a fixed bar from Wizardry Stitchery. And then grab your rectangle ring, and then you're gonna come back under the same way, up, down, and you're going to stitch right here, about an inch inside. Again, no mods on this side. So for this strap, your slider is there. Slide it a little lower. And now we're gonna come with the rectangle ring and place the vinyl strap right here, fold 1 inch, and this I'm going to rivet. You can stitch it, but you just keep in mind you have 8 layers of vinyl right now. So if you're using a domestic machine, you might be better off just putting a rivet over there. A little over 1 inch. Okay, so let's do the same thing on the other side. Make sure your strap is not twisted. Mine has a swivel clip, so mine won't be twisted anyways because of the swivel clip. But if you have not used the swivel clip and you follow the pattern and use a rectangle ring, make sure your strap is not twisted. So first this, then we go through the rectangle ring, and then we come back and repeat the steps here. Up and down, and then stitch inside. My God, this webbing is so beautiful. It's such a good quality, such a good quality webbing. It's not like those nylon cheap feeling ones. And when you add the unicorn main thread to this already gorgeous webbing, winner! Okay, so then same thing for this strap. We're gonna come with the vinyl, slide the vinyl in the rectangle, a little over 1 inch, and we're going to rivet that in place. And I'll add the rivets just like I did before. And this time I'm eyeballing it because I'm lazy. See, 8 layers of vinyl. I'm telling you, this tool is so good. For 8 layers of vinyl, I do encourage you to use a 9mm rivet, not just an 8, especially for this one, because this new backstitch Prince vinyl is such a good quality, and it's so it's thick and very resistant. So I would recommend 9mm rivets, not 8. Perfect. See how beautiful? Come on. I know you like that. There. Gorgeous. Strap done. Same thing for the other one. And my centering eyeballing was pretty good. These are 9mm. I believe Melissa carries 9mm rivets, not 8. So with a longer post, which is great for this part of the bag. See, it barely makes it out on this side. So you definitely don't need 8 for this. Let me add my little thing to protect my mouse head. And Perfecto. You can definitely stitch this down if you want. You can go ahead and run extra stitching for extra security. Okay, so the back of the backpack is done. I'm gonna set that aside and we're gonna start working on the front. For the front, because I want to show off one of these beautiful pulls. It's not a pull, it's a charm, because you need a zipper and a zipper pull to use it. I'm going to be doing the same thing that the pattern teaches you how to do on the back, on the lining. So it has a zipper pocket in the lining. So I'm going to do the same thing, but instead of doing it on the lining, oops, I forgot the back accent. Let me go back to it now. I saw the piece here and I forgot to add the cover. And I could hear you. I could hear you saying, dude, you haven't finished the back. You haven't finished the back. Go back with the cover. So for the cover on the back, you just need to fold 1/4 of an inch on each side for the back accent cover. It's just basically covering, like the name says, it's covering the straps so you don't see the raw edges of the straps. And like right here, see how you can see the edges of the straps? This will just cover that part. So we're gonna fold 1/4 of an inch, and it does help to have the Wonder Tape or knockoff Wonder Tape in my case, because this is the Amazon one that's cheaper. And you want to place that I guess because the vinyl is thick, it wants to slide off a little bit, so I'll just use a few pins, clips. Let's just say going forward, if you hear me say pins, you know I mean clips, because I know this is something that I say all the time. Okay, so I'm folding 1/4 of an inch on each side. And now I'm following the lines I have done before. So for the top, there's that line at 1.5 inches, and this is where I'll be placing my cover. And I'll stitch it 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. And this will add extra support to the straps. One, it will cover the raw edges so it looks neater. Come back and do the same thing on the other side. Again, 1/8 of an inch away. For extra support and extra design features, you can come now and stitch another line of stitching and put that, let's say, 1/4 of an inch away from the previous one. Now, because I'm using this I Spy one, I can say that it's going to be super visible, but if you're using the back strap like a solid accent piece, accent vinyl, then this will definitely pop. The stitches will pop and you'll see them easier. mine is more for extra security than it is for decorating. Okay, now we are done with the back. Now we finish the back. And of course, if you want, you can remove the extra corners. Let's get back to the front of the bag. So I'm going to be using the measurements given in the pattern, the one for the inside. There you go. So you want this to be 3 inches down from the top of the curve, 6 by 1.5. Okay, it's been a while since I've made the mini, so I couldn't remember. 3 inches down from the top, it's right here. So again, this will be the front of the backpack, but I'm using the instructions from the okay, I'm centering the pocket, and now I'm remeasuring 3 inches down. Right sides down. Just want to make sure it stays in place. 3 inches down, and then 6.5, and that will be 1 inch away from each end, I believe. About 1 inch away from each end. Actually 3/8 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch away from each end, because you want this to be 6 inches. Okay, so this will be our front pocket. I just want to make sure that my pocket is centered. Especially since it will be on the front. So I'm gonna double check. On the inside of the bag, I can't say that I mind too much, but since it's on the front, I want to make sure it's centered. And make my center markings while I'm there. So here. This is the center, and I just want to double check I have 3 on each side. So 3. Okay. Sort of. Another thing you could do here for this pocket again, I don't think I'm gonna do that, but you can add like an accent strip. See, I'm thinking of stuff while I'm sewing, because that's how I do stuff on the fly. Why don't I add that? And again, I'm not adding the cargo pocket. let's go ahead and cut inside of this. As close as you can get it to the corners. And again, this is the same procedure, the same steps that you'll be doing for the lining inside. I haven't modified anything there. And I do think I will remove some of the foam from here because it's really not needed, the foam here. And it just adds extra bulk that I don't need. I'm turning my bag like so, my lining. If you see that it's not going all the way and it's not turning nicely, it's because you probably didn't snip as close as you could get it to the corner. So give it one more little snip. And it's going to make a world of difference if you get as close as you can. All right. So this will be our front pocket. So now here I'm going to add, it tends and wants to move out because of the foam and the thickness of the vinyl, and that's normal. But I can fight it and win. Okay, so now I'm going to add my little zipper here. And I'll do my very best to center it, to center the zipper tape. You can use double-sided tape. You can, maybe I should use some here, because it really doesn't want to cooperate with me. So you want to center the zipper tape as best as you can, there. And top stitch all around. Your zipper pull has to be on the inside. Don't forget to move your zipper pull inside. And last side. It is a little harder because it has vinyl, but it's the same principle as you'll be using on the inside. I go over a few times on the edge. To create the zipper stop. Alright, you could leave it like this, or you can go ahead and add a strip accent if you want, or a rectangle vinyl accent. I don't know yet what I want to do. I really don't. Well, you know me, right? Flying by the seat of my pants. I've decided to add the accent after all, because why not? So we're gonna do that before we put the back of the pocket. And for that I cut two 1-inch strips of vinyl. Keep in mind that this will add bulk into the seams, into the side seam, my style, because I'm putting it from one end to the other. And I'm not leaving any raw edges. So if you're not comfortable with extra bulk in the side seams, either skip this step or add them just around the zipper and don't go all the way to the end, because it will definitely make your seams bulkier. So you know what your machine and your patience can handle, so keep that in mind. So I put a 1/4 inch strip of Wonder Tape on both sides because I don't want to see the raw edge. I mean, you could leave the raw edge and maybe use Coat or something. This fabric has white edge and it works with the print. But if you're using one that doesn't, you might want to consider using Coat. Not Coat, no. Edge coat is what I meant to say. So now I'm pretty much using the same techniques as when we covered the strap on the back. I'm stitching this folded right at the edge of the zipper area. And again, there's a lot of bulk and a lot of vinyl here, so if you're using your domestic, be cautious of that. Maybe you can even use woven as this accent piece, not another layer of vinyl. So keep that in mind. You can get the same look by using woven instead. Okay, so now I'm going to go on the other side. And make sure I stitch the second row. And it looks really pretty, like really pretty. I'm not sorry I added it. YOLO! Like I said, if you're using vinyl for this, this print has ran in both cotton lycra and woven. So you can definitely use a piece of woven for this accent that will not add extra bulk. And still get the same look using your domestic machine. So don't be afraid to mix and match. This way you and your machine will be happy at the end. And because I cut my 1-inch strips purely random length, I was too lazy to measure, I'm gonna just remove the excess right now. Beautiful. So this is what it looks like on the inside. This is what it looks like on the outside, and now I'm happier. I mean, you can go wild and do this too here and make like a lettuce. Oh, see, I'm getting all kinds of crazy ideas that I shouldn't be getting right now because I need to continue with the bag. But this is how I sew. Like, see, why I don't want to sew to sell. I can't have something that somebody decided how it looks. Like, see, I could have done this inside and make like a lettuce and then have this here. OMG. Like, stop. Alex, you need to stop. Because this would have been pretty if I put it on the inside instead of the two strips. You know what I mean? Keep that in mind for the next bag. No more mods to this one. Where is my prettiness? So now look what I can do. I can take my charm and put it on the zipper pull. And it looks so cute. So cute. Okay, let's finish the pocket. And I've decided to skip the inside slip pocket. So I'm gonna be trying to birth this bag through this pocket, which means the whole bottom I'll leave open. You can fold a little bit if you want. I don't bother. Nobody sees the inside of my pocket. So I'll just go ahead and stitch the top closed. And it looks like I didn't use enough room to make my job easier. And then stitch the sides. But now I realize that with the accent I went ahead and stitched on both sides. So this will be interesting to see how I fix that one, but hey, it looks pretty. So just the sides and leave the bottom open because we're gonna try to birth the bag through the bottom. Be cautious of this because now I realized I cannot go all the way up with the stitching on this side because I put my accent. You might want to consider hand stitching this part. Add a few stitches. I don't really care. Alright, so this is the front. Let's go ahead and work on the side pockets now. I'm not modifying the side pockets too much. The only thing that I'm purely just skipping, not modifying, is the elastic. I don't want to add the elastic because I'm using vinyl and it's too much of a hassle. So this is the inside panel and these are my pockets. So you'll see that the pocket panel is bigger because we're going to add like a little thing here, crease, and it's gonna stay like this. So first, for now, let's sew right sides together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Stitch. This is where you will put your elastic casing. I'm not adding it because I'm using vinyl. When I made the sew along, I used woven, interfaced woven, and I did add the elastic. So if you want to follow the pattern as it is instructed, definitely check out the links in the sew along because I go over these steps there as well without mods. I do believe, but I want to check. The bottom is like 1 inch on each side from memory, but my memory is not that great, so I will check. To create the pocket, you simply find the center of the bottom. And then mark 1 inch on each side of the center. 1 inch here. Here. 1 inch here, and then bring those two on markings towards the center. This will basically create a 1/2 inch pleat on each side. So it matches the bottom of the back, the side panel. That's all it does. So I'm gonna stitch that down. And now take your pocket and we'll be sewing the side seams. You can baste them in place or you can stitch them down. This will also be restitched when we sew the backpack all together. I'm using 1/4 of an inch seam allowance right now because the pattern follows a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so this stitch will be enclosed in the other one. And of course repeat the same thing for the other pocket. And this is how it should look like. Let's work on the zipper panels now that we have the front, the back, and the pockets done. So you have a 17-inch zipper and 2 zipper panels that are different widths, because the panel that's going to be closer to your back when you wear your backpack, it's to the back, and the one that's closer to the front, it's going to be the shorter one. So now we're going to be stitching this together like so, right sides together. But this is where my modifications start to happen, because I don't want to have a drop-in lining. So I'm going to stitch the lining as well to this. I really don't like drop-in linings. I'd rather do a binding any time of the day than do a drop-in lining. So I'll start by stitching right sides together, the back panel to the zipper, like so. With 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure that I match the raw edges. If you need to move your zipper pulls, do that. I use the double zipper pull, so I just simply put my zipper sliders from both ends. You can see in my zipper video how I do that. And of course tape and pulls from Wizard Stitchery and Crafts as always. So now I'm going to come in with the lining, which is the modification that I'm making to avoid drop-in lines. So I'm going to come in with the lining and I'm going to start stitching from about 3/4 of an inch to an inch away from the zipper. It's a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I like to give myself a little bit of a wiggle room. So I'll do a little over, maybe 3/4 of an inch. I have not tried this method, so I'm really doing it on the fly. And same thing on the other side as well. I will not go all the way. I will go about 3/4 of an inch away from the edge. So this is how it looks like. Okay. And now for top stitching, I'll do the same thing. I won't top stitch from both sides, from the beginning to the end. I'll top stitch from about 3/4 of an inch away. I do this so when I add the side panels, I can add them to each piece, like the main and the lining separately. Okay, so we'll do the same exact thing on the other side. Of the zipper. To the front, I'll stitch all the way on the main and then not all the way on the lining. A lot easier. Now, given that I'm using vinyl that's not flimsy, we'll see how well it turns, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Same thing, right sides together, but this time I'm stitching from the 3/4 point mark. And I'm trying to stitch on top of the previous stitching line, if possible. If not, no big deal. Like I always say, this is for fun. This is for you to enjoy the process, get a custom bag or backpack or what have you. No stressing. And try new things. So when I top stitch now, again, I'm not top stitching from beginning to end. I'm leaving space. I'm leaving about 3/4 of an inch. The pattern does have the lining and the main different sizes, so if you see it being a little extra, it's because of the drop-in lining, and I didn't modify any of the pattern pieces. So anything extra will just smooth out any excess. It's normal. Okay, so this is what it would look like from the inside. Keep in mind you don't have zipper stops, so don't snag your zipper pulls. Leave them like here in the center for now. So from the inside you can see where I stopped on both ends. Alright, take your side panels now. And you want to attach the side panel that we worked on doesn't have the lining. So right now we're just going to attach the side panel to just the part, that's why we left the opening, to just the main and the zipper, not the lining. See? So we're gonna do that with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I go a few times where the zipper tape is, so this will ensure that it's, now I have a zipper stop, at least on one side. Okay, so now see, my lining is right here, and my panel is here. You could leave just a 1/2 inch, but it's gonna be so difficult to sew, that's why I like to leave a little extra. And even if I don't have it top stitch here, it's no big deal. I'd rather make it more comfortable to sew than not. Okay, same thing on the other side. I'm gonna go ahead with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And a few times over the zipper tape. Very nice. So now we need to add the lining panels, and we're going to add them the same way, but only on the lining panels of the zipper. I still have some pockets. I'll make sure I grab the panels, not lining pocket. This is panel. I love to see my pile getting smaller and smaller, except when I can't find the piece. Come on, these are pockets. Okay, let me do one and then I'll look for the other one. So lining. This time it's going to go right here, and we're going to stitch, you see, just the green parts. Move the white away, and we'll stitch just the green like so, with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And your seam allowance will be folded down where the zipper is. I'll show you what I mean, because I don't think you can see from that angle. And of course, repeat the same thing with the other zipper lining. Let me show you what I was saying. Okay, so when you stitch this down, you see, I stitched through the lining, not through the main part, and here there's a gap. It's where the zipper is on the main, but there's no zipper on the lining. So that's what I meant. And now you're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Before I do that, let me top stitch this so I show you how I top stitch it. So I place my seam allowance towards the pocket, but I'm not going to top stitch all the way. Same thing, because we're gonna have to add the front and the back. You don't want to top stitch all the way. So I'm top stitching about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch away from the edge, for the same reasons as we did before. There. So this is how it looks like top stitched, and the same side will be exactly the same. So I'm top stitching from about 3/4 of an inch away here and here. So this can be separated when I add the front and the back. I have finished both sides of the side panels with the pockets. Now it's time to work some magic and put the back together. For the lining, the pattern calls for zipper pocket lining, like the one I did on the front. So I skipped that one altogether. I basically used the measurements for the zipper pocket to make like a patch pocket. Sewed right sides together, left an opening, turned inside out, and stitched it around. Simple. A simple slip pocket. No fuss, no muss. I just didn't want to do another zipper one. So I have my lining pieces here. I have my main pieces as well, and the side. So we'll just put it all together now. Make sure that you mark your centers for the top, bottom of both the lining and the main. All the quarter points of your lining and your main bottom, because this will make it a lot easier when you attach it. And then also the quarter points, not the quarter, the center points of your lining and your main on the zipper panel piece, like the one we just finished working on. So we're gonna be leaving an opening. We're gonna stitch everything, lining together, main together, and leaving an opening on the bottom of the lining. And then we have an opening also here on the pocket. So this is where we'll be birthing the backpack. Let me just remove the excess here. I forgot to do that before. Alright, so let's start with the main and then we'll do the lining. Like I said before, keep in mind that the wider part of the zipper goes in the back. So grab your back piece first if you start with that one. And I'm gonna need to roll my stuff out of the way. My straps, I don't want to stitch my straps into anything, so I'll just roll them a little bit in here as best as I can. I mean, I could have added the webbing at the end, and then this, let me grab it here. Okay. So I have my center marking made. Again, I'm going with the back side, and we're going to stitch. That's why we left that opening. We're going to stitch only on the main. Match the center, and then the sides, and then pin it in place all around. So I like to start with the center top, and then I do the sides. And keep in mind, if you've used the vinyl like I have, there's going to be lots of layers, so you want to go very slow regardless of the machine you're using. So basically, you will be repeating this step, and I won't do it on camera, or maybe I'll just speed it up so it's not boring you guys. You'll be doing these steps 4 times. One for the front, one for the back. I'm doing the back right now. Then one for the front and one for the back of the lining. So you'll do first the top center, pin it in place, and then you're gonna go all the way around and stitch with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. For the lining, you might want to consider stitching with a little bigger seam allowance, like 5/8 of an inch, so the lining is taut, it's tight inside. So I'll do just this one, and then I'll do the other ones either off camera or speed them up, because this is already a very long video and I don't want to lose you all. Okay, so again, I'm moving the lining away and I'm just stitching through here with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Go slow where you have your connectors. There's a lot of layers there. I mean, go slow everywhere, but mainly where you have the connectors. This vinyl sews so beautifully, no tearing or anything, because that's my biggest worry with vinyl, with custom vinyl, like the one that tears so easily. I am so happy with this product. I do go a few times over where I have my strap connectors, because there will be a lot of weight over there, so you want to make sure that it's stitched properly. So far I haven't had any issues at the park, but I do stuff my backpacks, like they're stuffed. You know, when we had security at Disney World that was going through every backpack, now they don't because of COVID. They just randomly, well, they do mine because my battery pack always triggered the alarm. But when they used to go through all the backpacks, they asked me, oops, I think I hit something there. They asked me every time if I if I'm doing like a Tetris or a puzzle before I leave the house, because to fit so much stuff in such a little backpack. It's called motherhood. We have an extra gift, an extra sense for Tetrising our bags to fit all the kids' stuff. Okay, let me see, because it looks like I'm hitting something here, and I don't know what. Slower. Okay, I don't know where it was, but it's done now. Okay, so you want to remove the excess seam allowance, because this is a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so it's pretty big. When you turn it, it may become bulky, so you want to trim the seam allowance to about 1/4 inch. This is how it looks like on the back. All right, I'm going to trim the seam allowance. I'm going to repeat the same steps on the front, and then I'm going to be doing the same steps for the lining, just like we did right now, only this time we'll be stitching on the green instead of the white vinyl. Same exact step, and then I'll come back and we'll do the bottom. So I've sewn the lining. In order to reach the other side of the lining, I do need to turn this. So push like so the lining. So it's on this side. So now I'm working on the other lining the same way we did before. So now I'm pushing this down like I did before and go to the other lining piece. And I'm going to stitch this here and then push out. The same thing as I did just now. It's still better than dropping lining if you ask me. Like personal preference. If you want to use staples, you could. Not a fan. But another thing you could do, if you find that it's difficult to wiggle it here, you might want to consider stitching like just the center, you know, so it helps with the pressure. If you feel like the pins are slipping off or something like that, I'll put a lot of them maybe. That will keep them in place. So like before, I'm just stitching to the lining, nothing on the main. Lining to lining. It's easy to see because it's all green. The more pins you put, the less pressure you have, because it distributes the pressure, you know. To make sure there's no puckers. And let's stitch it down. You'll see if you find it easier to stitch it with the curved side down or with the curved side up. You'll see with your machine and your workspace, whatever it's easier for you. I am not the biggest fan of huge, here, I'm gonna stop on the other side because it's easier, of huge seam allowances on the back. I prefer smaller seam allowances, just personal preference, but I think for the Minni, the 1/2 inch seam allowance definitely gives you a little bit of wiggle room for all this, so I like that. So see, I could see here that I was getting off track and I had one pucker. So I wanted to start from the other side. So with the back down towards my table, you'll find whatever it's easier for you with your space. Alright, so the front and the back are sewn. We just need to attach the bottoms now. And then flip the bag and we're all done. And let me trim the seam allowance. And I think I'm going to attach the bottom right now as it is right now, because see, it's easier. The linings are all on one side and the main all on one side. So I'm going to attach the lining right now and flip afterwards. We're going to match the markings on both the bottom and the lining. For the vinyl part, we'll be stitching all around. For the lining part, we're going to be stitching only on 3-ish of the sides, because the other part we'll use it to turn the bag. Just again, keep your lining away and we'll just be stitching on the vinyl. The sides are not marked, but I do have the like fold on the pocket, so it's easy to see where the sides are. Okay. Now let's stitch. It might be easier like this, I don't know, we'll see if it's easier on the with the backpack up or the other way. And again, I've used a lot of vinyl for this bag because I wanted to show off the beautiful strike-offs from backstitch prints. So I definitely made my job harder, but this vinyl sews so beautifully that I'm not even sorry. It glides so nicely through the machine. Keep your lining away when you stitch. Sure there's no puckers. And a tip that I've mentioned before, because I read it in one of the bag making Facebook groups, if you want to have like a stronger stitch, go ahead and do a second stitch in the lining and it will take off some of the pressure, you know. So when you get to the end, you might want to go ahead and do one more round of stitching all around if you want the extra strength on the stitches. I like to go and see if there's any place that, you know, I not skipped, but like here, see how it's snagged a little bit and created this Z? I don't like that. I'm going to go ahead and stitch correctly now. Everything else looks nice. Okay, so that is done, and then repeat the same thing for the lining, but this time choose one side where you want to leave an opening. And my suggestion would be to leave as big as an opening as you can, because, oops, I didn't mark this one. That will definitely help you when you're flipping the bag. Very important before you stitch your lining bottom is to make sure that all your zippers are open. Make sure that the zipper, run your hand through your bag, through the bag and through the pocket here, and make sure that this zipper is open, and make sure that the big zipper is open as well, because you need that to turn the bag. Ask me how I know to remind you this all the time. I've done it once. But luckily these zipper pulls move so easily, so I can just move them from the back, you know, just slide them from the back of the zipper. So we're gonna go ahead and stitch this, and this time I'm leaving this side open. Like this top side, I'm gonna just leave it all open. Might be easier this way, I don't know. It's easier to put it flat down or this way. Okay, don't forget to leave the opening. Alright, so I'm gonna trim off the seam allowance everywhere but where I left the opening. See, I felt like I had a little bump here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this and restitch here. And see, here I had a little like off thing. Easy fix. So I'll just restitch on top. Easy fixes. As long as you see them before you turn the bag. Then it's gonna be a hassle to turn it back. In which case I would not even bother, to be honest with you, if I saw it after I stitched the bag. These are bags for me, so if you're that close to me that you see little errors like this, you're too close to me. So I'm sorry. Alright, let's stitch, trim the seam allowance. Everywhere but where we're gonna need to push it back in and close it. So where the pins are right now, I'm not trimming anything, because then it would be a hassle to stitch it close. Okay, did I trim the bottom? It doesn't look like I trimmed this part. That is a lot of bulk. But these scissors, these are my Ginger scissors. They do a good job with all this vinyl and all this bulk. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's birth the mini backpack. First, I'm gonna try to see. Again, I've never done this before, so we'll see if it's easier to birth it first through the big opening here, and then the little one, or the other way around. I'm gonna try first to push everything through the lining. We'll see what happens if I need to redo it. You know the difference between me and a professional bag maker? A professional bag maker would have probably tried this method before putting it on video. Easier to just keep the bottom folded like this. Come on, you can do it. If you have sensitive wrists or fingers, or I feel like this could be with all the vinyl, you might be better off just doing like a binding instead of a drop-in lining. I feel like all this takes so much muscle work. But still better than drop-in lining. Oh, come to mama, you beautiful backpack. Oh, how pretty. I'm wondering if I really needed to leave that opening in the pocket, because it doesn't look like I'm using it for anything. So now I'm just turning it. It's wrong side out. I'm just turning it. I mean, should I stitch this first? I should probably stitch this first. Oh, I know why I left it. I left it this way. I can stitch this part through the pocket. But I really don't care. If you stitch it through the pocket, it's gonna be nice and closed. But if I stitch it right now, then I really didn't need to leave the pocket open. You could have just closed that pocket. And I'm probably gonna stitch it now. I don't know. I feel like since I left it, I probably should do it the right way. But again, if you forget to stitch, to leave the pocket opening, like the zipper pocket opening there, not a big deal, because you can stitch this closed right now without any hassles. You don't really need that one. You need it to make it like prettier inside, but you know how I feel about pretty inside. My bags are not pretty on the inside, but they're passable on the outside. Come on, baby. Yes, 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 yes. We are almost there. Oh, it's so pretty. It is so pretty. Alright, so this is pushed nicely. This looks so cute. Come back. Just gonna run it. This, I do the back and I run it through the seams, just to push out the seams. This vinyl, look how beautifully this vinyl stitched. No tear, no anything. So flexible. It's thick, so it's nice and sturdy, but it's flexible. So that means it won't tear, like the ones that are backed with like poor quality felt. I've worked with vinyl with felt that was good, but some of them were atrocious. OMG, how beautiful. Okay, let me close it. So now you have an opening in this zipper here. So through it, I can bring the lining opening and stitch it closed. And it's gonna have like a nice stitch, you know? So this is the lining opening that I have right now. And I can stitch it closed right now. And it will be nice and neat and you won't see it. Since I left this pocket. But if you, again, if you didn't leave this pocket, no big deal. Because you can just stitch it, hand stitch it inside. Like you do with any other bag that you turn. Not a big deal. This is just an extra step for added neatness on the inside. I've learned this technique from a square backpack that I made for my kids. I think it was a Sally Tomato backpack that birthed it through the front pocket like that. I don't remember the name, but it's here on my channel, the backpack. It's like a squarish one. And she has that technique and I loved it. I said, this is what I want to do to my Minni. This way I don't have to do a drop-in lining ever again. And it worked. So we're going to consider this video a success. So now I'm going to push back my lining. So when I look inside now, it's all neatly inside. No hand stitch or anything. It's all closed. So I'm pushing it all out. All stretched now. And now I just need to close this pocket. This little pocket here. Again, you can hand stitch it or I can just fold inside. 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, whatever you want, and just stitch it down. And that's it. It's ready. It's done. Your new Minni backpack with no drop-in lining, with beautiful, gorgeous back stitch prints, vinyl, the I Spy and the confetti. And then I have the gorgeous webbing and the little charm that I added on the front. And I've also used my beautiful rainbow tape from Wizardry. I am surrounded by talented bag making supply friends. Let's put it this way. I am very blessed. All the gorgeous rainbow hardware is also from Wizardry. Pocket is officially closed, so all the stitching is done. This was a longer video than normal, I feel, but we've accomplished magical stuff together, right? Alright, I'm gonna go snap a few pretty pictures of this because it's too pretty not to show it off, and it's going to the parks with me in a couple of weekends. Oh, so perfect. So perfect. So, yeah, this is the finished bag. Where's my lighter? Where's my lighter? There. You just burn this up here. So this is the backpack. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all the excitement you've shown on the unboxing video that I posted yesterday. It was so nice to see you all happy about this product. And stick around Backstitch group for all the details about this pre-order that is coming soon. And I will see you back here in the next video. Keep creating, my lovelies. Bye.